only through decarbonisation, but through our conservation work as well, promoting herbal leys, which obviously help soil because of the deeper rooting nature. They fix nitrogen, which lowers the need for artificial nitrates and artificial fertilizer. And obviously with a change in climate and being climate resilient, they cope better in wetter weather and they cope better in drier weather as well. And especially this summer, where we've seen great swathes of our countryside turning yellow, a lot of the farms that we've been working with have come back and have said, do you know, it's been a lifesaver this year having the herbal leys or multi-species leys, because they don't have to be herbal. And obviously, as we can see from the picture as well, not only good for productivity, but good for biodiversity as an extra food source for pollinators as well. So the first quote actually came from the Coast to Coast evaluation and from a farm that had planted herbal leys. So the herbal leys funded by the scheme have been very successful, allowing significant reduction in the use of fertilizer, an improvement in soil health and provision of good grazing. Allowing the leys to flower also provides nectar pollen resources for a range of pollinators and seem to be very much enjoyed by the cattle. So that's from the cow's mouth. And then the other two then are research pieces and research pieces that also reaffirm why herbal leys is important. But as I alluded at the beginning, it is a journey, and you know, it's a big change in management. It's a big change in thought process and how grasslands are managed. And back in 2023, it feels like a lifetime ago now, we held a weatherproof farming event, Ffermio'r Gwaethaf y Tywydd. This was our first step, working with the Nature Friendly Farming Network to try and change the mindset of farmers, and really it was around soil health and around grazing management. We had a very successful day up in the north, talking around soil structure, how grassland management can really good grassland management can be profitable for the business. Yeah, everybody who came really enjoyed. And I think with the Ffermio Bro programme, I think this is something we're going to try and expand in the next couple of years. So moving forward, Connecting the Coast, which ran on the same timeline as greening agriculture. So we weaved a herbal ley grant into that capital grant as well, and over 150 hectares of herbal ley and pollinator friendly seed mixes were planted. And also through the greening agriculture, we've given the 9 farms that we've worked with, we've given them the option of, if they establish herbal leys, and if they can evidence that they've established well, that we're willing to give them a contribution towards the cost of establishing them. And as I alluded, yeah, the Ffermio Bro scheme, which is a new national capital scheme, which has started this spring. So carbon will really come into the regenerative farming element and supporting practices that improve soil health and biodiversity as well. It is a change in mentality and agricultural practice. It's all well and good, we can put solar panels on roofs overnight, but for long-term meaningful change, it's going to take a bit of time. But hopefully that encapsulates where we're at with things. The minute, note there'll be questions, and I'm more than happy to field any comments or questions.
Thank you very much, Oh, well, that was absolutely fascinating, and it was covering things that wasn't in the report. So yes, if we can take the presentation down, then we can have an opportunity for some questions, please. I think that would be great. I have to say, I'm going to butt in here. I get exceedingly excited about when it comes to inclusion of legumes and transition to herbal leis for lots of reasons. I can see Steve nodding. We come from that sort of a background. The benefits, pollinators, disease resistance. My own PhD thesis was on fungus disease of Italian ryegrass. So wait, I get very excited about it. Simon.
Brilliant presentation. Do you know, we, as an operational review committee, we are spoilt rotten by the quality of everything that we receive in terms of officer reports. It's nothing, it leaves nothing to be desired. Wanted to ask Arwell about the all of this is dependent and contingent on the grants continuing. Are we looking at just like the 1 year cycle, or is there some sort of, is there like a 3-year cycle for these grants? Because there's nothing worse than just having a 1 year, then you're worrying at the end of the financial year, oh, it's going to end, and all this wonderful work then is sort of is threatened. Is there the certainty of a 3-year cycle for these grants?
I think something that's been really positive, that the funding cycle, especially for conservation and decarbonisation, has migrated to a 3-year cycle, which gives greater scope to impact meaningful change. But where funding is going on in an agricultural from a point of view of agriculture, we are priming farms as well to through Ffermio Bro to work towards the collaborative layer of the sustainable farming scheme, and through that then they will have have access to other funding, which we hope is going, well, we can only hope that is going to outlast our funding cycle. So it's all preparing the farms and getting them ready so they can access other funding themselves.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that's really great.
Yeah, and that integration with SFS, the Sustainable Farming Scheme, is so utterly critical, because that's a kind of once in a generation opportunity for us to really make some transitions. And I should also say at this point, several of us too recall the visits that we made to some of the farm recipients of the grants early on, which was really interesting and helpful to us all. But I think getting the changes to farms, as you say, not only helping cost reduction wherever and carbon reduction at a time when, particularly with dairy farms, they're very carbon hungry, and where, you know, families and farming families are under huge economic pressure and suffering emotional stresses. Actually, all these things are really supportive, because they also encourage farmers to talk to each other and learn from each other, and that peer-to-peer collaboration, and you know, which is why, of course, Steve has had to give us his declaration that, you know, the farming community is so very connected. It means that things that work and lessons learned can be shared, and those injections of relatively small amounts of capital as enablers can be really quite transformational. So thank you for that. Steve, I can see you're wanting to come in here.
Thank you, Arwell, for that. And it's something that's been going on for 25, 30 odd years, this discussion group networking events that we have, and trying to get the best out of what we do and how we do it. It's no doubt in the last 5-6 years, this new regeneration farming options for herbal leis has absolutely massively increased, and I know they've been well pushed by First Milk. You have effectively showed us, well, all dairy farms, but to me, one of the great things that could go on with Ffermio Bro would be getting beef producers to also use these type of leis as well, and that would give us an integration of the various habitats around the coast where maybe not all dairy farms are situated. But anyway, excellent presentation. Thank you very much indeed. And one of the things that I always ever did was I never used compounds as regards cattle food. I always used straights, as we call them. So that's things which were surplus to requirement, like soy hulls and maize gluten, which is the protein side of the maize flour. And that was a big source of input for me. How much that would have reduced my carbon, I couldn't tell you from any stretch of the imagination. But you know, it would have had a distinct benefit, and obviously they were cheaper in cost as far as I was concerned. Anyway, well done, Arwell. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, as you say, Simon, we really have fantastic presentations, and your presentation, I will picked up on lots of points that weren't covered in your report, so that's great. But if I just nip back to that too, I think the traditional boundaries, it's really encouraging to see the extent of the hedge planting that's been achieved through that, which plays absolutely straight into the deep dive. Welsh Government, you know, the connection and the corridors, which is vital. And it reminds me of the work that Sarah Mellor was done with our adder tracking, and the importance of those traditional boundaries for some of our, you know, really challenged species, and the way that the adders tracked up and down the hedgerows and the wall boundaries, which is great. Thank you too for pointing out the sort of lessons learned, you know, that very analytical, which you did in your report about the complexity of delivering that technical infrastructure, the traditional, the cultural, that wide set of approaches that you're trying to promote across our farms and our farming landscapes. And I think it's worth thinking too about the impact that some of this has on the colour of the landscape. So actually, if you get a transition from pure Italian ryegrass to more mixed herbal lays, it's visually has a huge impact. And that's part of, again, our natural beauty of our coastal areas. So, you know, along with all the wildlife benefits, you're doing such a lot. Diolch yn fawr iawn. I know that there's a saying in Gymraeg, which is meddwl yn gall, cerdded yn hir, which I think roughly translates as think wisely, walk and go far. And I think that's really part of what we're trying to promote, that thinking about things and looking to the long term, which is, of course, all part of the wellbeing of future generations methodology and thinking of that long term changes. Things don't happen overnight. But diolch yn fawr iawn I ti. Thank you. And I think it's back to Jess.
Thank you. Diolch, Arwell. I suppose before I go to my final two slides, it's just worth just sort of speaking to you about when I was approaching this report and this meeting. The idea really is to tell you what I think you should know in terms of where we are with our net zero emissions, but also give you a flavour of what we're doing across the national park that fits within the climate change and climate sort of decarbonisation plan. And, you know, what better way than getting Sue and Arwell, who are both extremely passionate about their roles and their work to share that with you. So diolch yn fawr, Arwell and Sue. I'll just share my final two slides.
And I loved Arwell's quip about the surf and turf. I think that was
yes.
But I mean,
I hadn't thought of that.
No, and so important for us as a coastal national park that we're doing the marine and Sue's presentation as well as the terrestrial. So
yeah.
You know, thank you, but thank you for bringing the team together there. Right, we've got this. Great.
Brilliant, thank you. So it hasn't showed me my notes now though. Hang on, there we are. Right, okay. So my next two slides really about our challenges, opportunities and some next steps. And of course there are challenges. Emissions from heating, fleet and supply chains, as I mentioned earlier on in the meeting, have risen and are rising. Maintaining low carbon infrastructure like our heat pumps is difficult and resource intensive. So last year's reporting saw that the impact of the broken solar panels we had at Oriel Park, and this year the drastic increase in our gas use at Oriel Park as a result of the building management system and ground source heat pump having failed there. I'm sure you have this at all kind of your operational review meetings, but staff capacity remains tight and resourcing tight. We've been without a sustainability officer and building maintenance officer through a large part of this last year's reporting period. But as you mentioned at the start of the meeting, we're very pleased that we've got Bethan Jones, who started just this week as our new sustainability officer. Reporting requirements continue to evolve, so our annual reporting to Welsh Government is being refined all the time, both from their reporting spreadsheet. They're asking more detailed data for more detailed data, and we're also refining and improving our data that we're recording. So that makes it difficult to provide accurate trends from baseline data. But there are opportunities, as I've mentioned before. The solar canopies at Lannion will meet nearly half of the building's electricity needs and reduce our overall emissions. A new heat pump we're installing in Pantglas, and also we hope to replace the failed ground source heat pump in Oriel Park. We're looking to reduce our supply chain emissions, and we have a new procurement strategy that we're working through, and with better data and smarter investment as well as collective action, we can turn these challenges into opportunities. So looking ahead, we have the target to reduce our emissions by 85,000 kilograms of CO2 equivalent by next year to stay on track with that Aquaterra pathway. We've got priorities that include expanding the renewable energy installations. We're looking to see how we can embed carbon emissions in our decision making and also our asset management, and strengthen behaviour change across staff and communities, as well as deepen our partnerships for adaptation and resilience. So the message really for our next steps and our call to action is by leading through action and collaboration, as well as innovation, we can make real progress towards our net zero target and climate resilience for the park. Thank you. That's the end of my
Thank
slides.
you, Jess, very much. I think there may be a few pickups here. You know, really, really helpful. Particularly appreciate the way you've brought the team together and served us that surf and turf menu, as it were, and the fact that, you know, you clearly have, in a sense, that the really tough challenges in there of the data collection, analysis, presentation to Welsh Government, when quite, you know, data analysis and data collection can become a whole industry of its own. Really important to do because it does show you the trends, but really complex because you're dealing in complex system and you're getting proxies a lot of the time. So, you know, you're kind of just doing your best guesstimation in some cases. But I think things like the telematics are really interesting. I think they'll be game changers in, you know, helping find out, you know, what are we doing, where are we going, why are we doing it that way. A question I have in relation to the PVs is where, clearly, you know, once you get the installed panels, that's great, you're cutting your electricity, but where is presumably that the purchase of the PVs themselves and their own carbon cost, inverted commas, must be presumably picked up in our purchasing somewhere. So yep. I imagine that's how that gets picked up. Yeah, I can see you nodding. That's fine. And I'm just interested in how to what extent, and this is bowling one I haven't thought about, so sorry about that, but to what extent are we finding ourselves collaborating not only across the three parks but with others, you know, Cyngor Cymru, more widely, where are the heroes, where are the people we're thinking, oh, if only we can be like them, you know, where is it that you've got your kind of target set personally in people you are liaising with, groups you're liaising with, who are really bringing you some energy, because it's a hard, it's hard yards you're doing.
What I would say is, and in fact, one of the first things Bethan jumped on a call yesterday was, and I encouraged her to do so, was that the WLGA actually have got a really good group of climate, I can't remember the name, climate sustainability officers. So obviously all public sector bodies are having to do those net zero report spreadsheets annually, and everyone's, doing it. They're not completing it in different ways. They're completing it in the same way, but they've got challenges in different areas, and we'll focus on different areas. And there's a huge amount of resources that's available through that WLGA, which other public sector bodies like national parks, like ourselves, are able to use. Yesterday there was a session all about travel and transport, which gave Bethan and I some great ideas of things that we can start trying to push with our staff. It was around business travel. So there are resources out there for various different areas of reducing emissions. We've had a great amount of support from the Wales Energy Service, and in fact they provided for free a statewide assessment on all of our buildings, and the canopies were in that. So we're literally working through a priority of projects that they had provided us with. We're part of the UK National Parks group, and although all our national parks are very, very different, there's a lot of support there for various areas of work that we're doing. So I don't feel at all like we're alone. It's just the amount of stuff, sheer volume
of prioritization, making choices.
Yeah, and I think, and I should have said, actually, I must apologize, I should have said that Arwel and Sue both work under the conservation team. They're not part of my team, so I'm really appreciated that they've come and shared it with you. The thing I think, or I know I should say, is that it should be across the authority and with all of the partners that we work with our national park, and that is a mammoth task, but it's not. I still have hope that it's possible. But that's the thing.
That cross-cutting.
Yeah,
it's getting that cross-cutting work. But I think you've illustrated that brilliantly, and as you say, it's getting everybody as individuals and all our collaborators and all our suppliers all lined up, and then learning and sharing good practice from across the piece. I think I came across the science-based carbon initiative recently, and there's some really interesting groups and bodies that can support, and likewise, of course, the Centre of Alternative Technology in Machynlleth has been doing this for over 50 years, which is pretty astonishing, really. So thank you all very much for your presentations. I don't think we have any. Do we have any further questions for Jess? No? Okay. I mean, all strength to your elbow, your team, and that of all the teams, conservation and other, who are contributing. I think it's been really valuable for us to see this spread across not only what PCMPA itself is doing with its own buildings, but the way that it is facilitating and promoting and enabling action with its partners, collaborators, its landscape farmers. I think that's brilliant. Thank you again, Georgia. If there are any links, or if there was anything in the chat, I didn't quite make out the picture that should go into the minutes, please add those. But if there's nothing else, diolch yn fawr I chi gyd. Thanks to everybody on the committee. Thank you very much to our trio of speakers, and to all those behind them who are supporting them. And you must all now go off and have a break, because we've done the meeting at a stretch. So Georgia gets to have her cuppa. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Diolch. Hwyl fawr.
Really good. How are you doing, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm
Bear
good.
with me. Sorry, bear with me just a moment while I can make